Welcome to Swashbuckling with Code. I'm Jimmy Cleveland, and today we're going to add the Gatsby plugin-manifest to our website. And that's going to enable some progressive web app functionality for our site. And I'm going to show a little bit about what exactly that does. To understand what the manifest plugin does, I think it makes the most sense to take a look at what our web page currently is not in terms of a progressive web app, though it is on its way to being there. So in order to do that, I'm going to do a little bit of quick cleanup first. So we look at this page, and this is our actual hosted version. And we see that we have all these different images for demonstrations. And then if we go over to the terminal where we left off last, I had these ESLint errors. So I'm going to do a quick correction of those, and then we'll push that up, and then we're going to inspect it with Google Lighthouse and see how it feels about our site and in terms of progressive web app. So first, we have these errors right here, and this is actually pretty easy to deal with. This was just part of this demo of doing style components with a footer. I actually don't want any of this right now, so I'm going to get rid of that and just leave the copy. And then we don't really need this like A tag code here, though I could leave it. And that should eliminate these errors for us. And then the next thing I want to do is pretty quick. I just want to go to the home page here. And you can see on the home page that we have these different images that we're loading, different types. And so I would say let's do, we've got this fluid one, we've got this public URL. So yeah, let's just use this one for now. Okay, so I'll have this image going back to, here's our actual hosted one currently. And we can see that we need to do a little bit of a footer push, but for now, we're just going to leave that alone. I don't want to waste too much of your time, just to get rid of that issue and kind of see how Google treats this page in general. And then we'll try some other pages. So coming back to the terminal, what I want to do now is push up these latest changes, get Netlify to build them, and then I'm going to use Lighthouse to check that after it's all been minified and all that good stuff on an actual fast CDN host. So we get the most realistic to our real world case as opposed to just localhost. Okay, so I just had to add my SSH stuff real quick. Sorry about that. But now we can say, let's just do the dirty git commit -m, and we'll push up the master here. And we'll just say removed footer links and homepage images. Just a real quick description, nothing crazy. And then I'm actually going to go up to swc master, such a habit. I need to change that main, huh? Okay, so then that's pushed up, and then we can go over to our Netlify instance, and we can see that a deploy should have begun, and that's building currently. And while we're doing that, what I'll do is I will take a look at this page right here, this first markdown. If we go here and we go to this first markdown, we need to put the trailing slash and run this audit. The audit's going to run, and what we're going to see from web.dev is that it doesn't actually display any information about a progressive web app at all, which is kind of interesting that they do it that way. Okay, so here it is, it's done. Here's the report, and you can see these measurements, and if we open up the actual report, there's no PWA up here at all. And to show that in contrast, if I were to go to my inspector and drop down, this is a little bit small, huh? Let me bump that up a tiny bit. Of course, that means that everything shifts over, and my life is pain. But let's drop this down here and go to Lighthouse. And here we can see we can generate this Lighthouse report like locally on our machine. And you're going to see that there will be a progressive web app little badge right here. Now notice that it doesn't have any flare or anything like that. That's pretty interesting. And you can ignore this issue currently. This is just this is kind of a weird problem where when you're running this locally, whenever we go to the trailing slash version of our site, it's actually still, when you run the Lighthouse, going to read it from the URL, which has stripped off that trailing slash. I haven't figured out how to get around that just yet. It's kind of a weird bug that I've been facing, but it's not important for what we're covering here, just so you know why this is popping up. So progressive web app, you can see fast and reliable 1 of 3, installable 1 of 3, and progressive web app optimized 4 of 8. So if we click it, it'll link us down here. It's such a cool tool, Lighthouse. It will tell us, okay, where did we fall short of the mark? We're getting there, but we're not quite considered a progressive web app by the minimum standards. So the current page does not respond with a 200 when offline. So this is pretty interesting. I'm going to show you this in a moment, but what this means is that normally when you want to have a progressive web app, you're going to want to ensure that it is available offline because it's supposed to behave like an app. And that will do that by having some like cached information that it can reveal to the user whenever they open it, just in case they don't have internet connectivity and they've already like been to a page or gotten some of that content, they can use it like they would a regular app on their phone. And that's getting to kind of the heart of what a progressive web app is. It's a way to have your website behave like an app on your phone and have a lot of the functionality that a reliable app on your phone would have. So let's continue through this real quick. Yeah, we've got that error. We do have uses HTTPS, and that is a requirement for a progressive web app, which is pretty cool. We'll talk about that a little bit more in just a moment, but web app manifest does not meet the installable requirements. No manifest was fetched. So this is an important part. We do need a manifest, and that's what that is telling us. And then optimized, okay, yeah, redirects HTTP traffic to HTTPS. So this is kind of like, these seem like the minimum. Is it fast and reliable? Is it installable? And then finally, these are like bonuses in a way. Is it optimized for this? It doesn't set a theme color for the address bar. This is kind of interesting because you can click into any of these things and it'll say, oh, no manifest was fetched, meta theme color. What is this? Well, let's learn more. And coming down here, it says theming the browser's address bar to match the brand colors of your progressive web app provides a more immersive and user experience. So there you go. This is really cool. Google has like so much information here. If you're ever wondering like what these errors are, they've got some pretty good write-ups. I feel like they usually hit the mark pretty well. So yeah, content is sized correctly for the viewport. Obviously that's important for a phone. And then we have this tag, contains some content when JavaScript is not available. That's pretty cool. And does not provide a valid Apple Touch icon. So it's even thinking about that. Google thinking about Apple Touch icons. Who would have guessed? So manifest doesn't have a maskable icon. That's interesting because they want it to be see-through. So a maskable icon ensures that the image fills the entire shape without being letterboxed. And these are really cool. They're really trying to tell you how to deliver a first-rate experience to your users. So I just wanted to show you that first, that if you take a look at the site thus far, we are, of course, falling short of the mark. But even with the minimal things that we've done with Gatsby, we're getting pretty close. We've got some of those major ones hit. And then, of course, HTTPS with Netlify and the way our site is set up. All right, so, our build should be done here. And I just want to check real quick that if I go back to this home page here, that our change is up, and that's pretty cool. And we should get the same results here. I'm using this other page as a kind of a benchmark because it's got more content. So it's just a little more recognizable. But if we reload this here, there you go. That stuff's gone. Now let's dig into the docs for Gatsby right here for adding a manifest file. So you can see that they give us some pretty good information. I'll link this in the description. But why do I keep hovering over that? Stop. Okay, so what we can see here is that it's talking through what is a progressive web app in general. There's some good information here, but the things that I'll just highlight while we're in this video in general is that if they link over to the Google overview on web.dev, you can read through here. I'll link this in the docs as well, and or in the description, sorry. And there's a whole lot of information here that you can dig into to figure out, okay, what is exactly a progressive web app? And they'll talk through it, and they're going to talk about some of the things that I just talked about. There's also this really good post by on a list apart that here will say, this is kind of a bunch of like him clearing up some misinformation about progressive web apps. It's worth the read. But right here is the part that I want to get to. What is a PWA? And there's a few like checkpoints that you really need to meet. This one is saying there are only 3 requirements. And this would be that HTTPS, so it has to be secure. And you need a web app manifest, which they actually talk about here in the docs. They have a quick quote from Google. And that is a simple JSON file that tells the browser about your web application and how it should behave when installed. All right, and then finally, the last one, you need a service worker, which is a lot more complicated typically. And this Gatsby plugin manifest makes this quite easy compared to normally working with a service worker. So the main thing about that you just need to know right now is that the service worker it does a lot of stuff, but one of the key things that it handles is making proper requests for content and serving up previous content if you're offline or you have internet connection issues or whatever. There's a whole slew of cool things you can do as far as like storing like information. Like you can actually make your website app behave, your progressive web app behave in such a way that, you know, if you were, let's say you had like a to-do list or you had a recipe list or something like that, and you fill out recipes. Well, you know, if you had this cool single page app that does that and it stores all that data locally, the service worker can then, next time that they have an internet connection, if they didn't when they filled out all that information, it can then send that information to your server and save it so that none of that's lost. And so it still behaves like a full-fledged app, which is really cool. So that's a quick rundown of that. And I think it's about time to just install this and see kind of how it behaves. So what we can do is we can say, okay, Gatsby plugin manifest, we just want to install this plugin. So let's copy this here. We'll go back over to our trusty terminal. We'll say, hey, we want to add this. Gatsby plugin manifest. I can't talk. Come down here. They want you to have a favicon for your app under this source images icon. That's because they're going to point to it. But what we really want to do is just take, let's see, you know, some of this info right here. Okay. That's done installing. You jump over here. We want to go to our Gatsby config. And here is where we're going to want to put this. So typically, I believe you're supposed to put your manifest toward the bottom, actually. But you're supposed to put, is it above something else? It might say here in the docs. One second. Yeah, I don't see it here in the docs, but there are certain things that you want to prioritize in order when it comes to the manifest file, I believe. Well, I'll come back to that when I figure out more information for that. All right, so back here again. We have this Gatsby plugin manifest. We've just copy pasted that object over. We're resolving that. What is the name? Okay, so do we have a name yet for this blog? I don't honestly know if we do. How about cheese extravaganza? We already had a cheese theme going, so is that how you spell extravaganza? Sure seems like it. All right. Short name. What is the short name actually for? MDN. Here we go. Perfect. Go away. An identifying name for the app can be used by app stores, browsers on startup screens, and prompts, or by operating systems on app launchers and setting screens. So that's what the name's for. You've got a short name used to display the name to the user where there is limited display space. So probably like a little browser tab or something like that, such as below the icon on a home screen or app launcher menu. So that's what the short name is for. So go back here and let's say, what's our short name? Well, that's way too long. So let's just go cheese X. Maybe that's what we call it. No good reason. Start URL. Yeah, we'll start at root. Background color. Well, this is probably something that we should get from our CSS, right? Global CSS here. And let's say we want this dark kind of color for our theme here. So then we'll go PWA, P. Go back over here. And do we have any other? We've got kind of this saddle brown. We've got this old lace. I don't know if it'll actually accept CSS colors. So I'm going to try and, is there a way to copy this? Well, this is really cool that you can do this. Let's just do that. And then we'll go back over to here and plop that in here. Enables add to home screen prompt and disables browser UI, including back button. Okay, so let's do this. We'll leave that on. And then the display, that's what standalone does. And then the icon. So we need a source images, and we do not currently have an icon PNG. So we'll just get one to test it out. All right, so I've got this little swirl here that I've made for part of my logo. I'm just going to use that as a fast thing, even though it doesn't fit our theme. We'll come over here, and we can see that it's looking for source images icon. So we're going to do that. We're going to change this name to just icon PNG, and that's what it's going to load up for our app. And what's cool about this is it's actually going to generate out our favicon. which is really neat. You know, if you've ever been in that situation where you've got to have an image and find some uploader and drag a bunch of all the different various Apple versus Microsoft icons over into your site. This is handling all that for you by just, you know, having this image there in general. It's really cool. So from there, we'll just leave that, and that should be good. Jump back over to here, and then we're going to do a little experiment right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, I thought I could have done this a different way, but I thought it'd be an interesting little challenge for myself. I'm going to show you on my phone what it looks like when we go to our site currently, and then we're going to upload this Gatsby plugin manifest to our Netlify server, and then I'm going to revisit it, and we're going to see how it has changed, and we'll check that out in the Lighthouse as well. So here you can see if we go to our website on a mobile phone, you know, it's looking great. It's got some really awesome Gatsby performance. But what we're going to see in general is that if I were to turn off my internet, well, what I'm going to do is enable airplane mode here. If I turn off my internet and I try to refresh, I just don't get anything. I don't have any way to serve those assets offline or anything like that. And so that's something that the Progressive Web App is going to fix for us in just a moment. All right, so now we will take a look at this. We'll add this file. We obviously updated our package.json with that. Our yarn lock has been updated. We added an icon. It is lovely. And then we made a quick CSS change. We don't really want to keep that. We can keep the variable. That's fine. And then we will commit this as add plugin manifest. All right. And then I'm going to get push swc master. And now we'll just wait for that to build over here. And then we'll take a look at how that appears afterward. Okay, you can see our build's complete. I've refreshed, and you can see that we have this nice little icon now. So that part at least is working. Let's generate out a report and see what happens. We should expect to see a little bit more progressive web app functionality. There's actually one more thing that we'll need to do, but okay. So you can see we don't get this, well, you don't even know what you're looking for yet, but there's going to be a beautiful little badge there in a moment. But if we look at it, we've hit more of the notches. So if we go down there, you can see we still do not respond with this 200 when offline, which kind of clues us into part of that. And then when we come down here, there's the same thing, does not register a service worker that controls the page and start URL. It's related. And these are all looking checked off, though. It looks like we're providing a valid Apple Touch icon. We have everything except the manifest doesn't have a maskable icon. So we're going to need a different icon if we want to hit that little bonus. Okay, so what do we need now? Well, to pair it with Gatsby plugin manifest, that's just to give you the manifest file, right? But what we need is Gatsby plugin offline. And I'm curious if they tell you this anywhere in here, adding offline. Oh, it's the next step. How awesome is that? So adding offline support with a service worker. So here you go. You can see that they're mentioning a lackluster score in the progressive web app category. We did notice that. Talks about a little bit about what a service worker is. We've kind of talked about that already. But feel free to read up more on that if you want more information. And really, this is the thing that we're looking for. And this is kind of what I was referring to before when I was saying this needs to come after your actual Gatsby plugin manifest. Let's see if they mention that anywhere. Yeah, here we go. Don't forget to list the offline plugin after the manifest plugin so that the manifest file can be included in the service worker. That's important. Okay, so let's install this. So we're going to grab this. We're going to go back over to our server. We're going to yarn add this file. We will then go back to our code. And all we need to do is add this right here. Why did you not put my quotes in? Okay, there we go. And let's make sure we're not crazy. Do we do it before? Do we do it after? We do it after. So let's put that after there. Make sure that we do that right. And oops, I need to go down one more. Whoopsie daisy. So now this is essentially probably running in some sort of order that it's caching, you know, everything else that comes before it, any information. So that's cool. And that should be about it. Now that we have that, we will just add all our stuff because we have just added this one thing. we're going to make the message of add Gatsby plugin offline, push, and then this will trigger another build. And then when that's finished, we'll see if we get a better score. Now, while I was waiting for our deployment to finish, I was looking into this Maskable icon issue, curious as to why mine isn't, since it is a see-through PNG with a transparent background. And I found this article that's kind of interesting, showing that what I think the problem is going to be is that it's not so much that it's transparent, it's that when it tries to shape it in this circle, that it doesn't clip the icon. I'm guessing that's what it is, and they show you this cool little thing that you can actually look in application manifest to see that image, which I did not know that. You know, I knew about the manifest application in general, but I didn't realize that it showed the image there. So if this is done building, yes, it is. Maybe we should take a little peek at that real quick before we restart this, and we can see here, oh yeah, look. Okay, no matching service worker detected, so it tells us that right away. This is where, of course, you can look at your service workers in general if you're ever getting into that world. Okay, the name, it's working. Short name, it's working. This is showing our colors. This is pretty neat. I don't know how these are going to turn out. I just picked some random colors, but you would want to, you know, put a little more time into that. Now, this is pretty interesting. Show only the minimum safe area for maskable icons. So is this what they were talking about? Okay, interesting. So is it that it's clipping around it? Is that what it's trying to show? Like there's this, it's really hard to see on this, but it looks like as you get bigger, that's what's happening. There might be a circle here. And so they're trying to show that. It'd be cool if they kind of cropped it a little bit better, but either way, that's probably what our issue is. That'd be my guess. So now let's go back to Lighthouse, clear this, generate another report. Okay. Now we get a question on this one. We got an error. Start URL did not respond, but not via, or did respond, but not via a service worker. Okay. And then we got redirects HTTP to HTTPS traffic. That's interesting. Contains some content when JavaScript is not available. There's an error. I wonder what happened here. Let's do a hard refresh. I haven't had this issue before, actually. Clear, reload. Map? Why are you downloading a map? All right, so after spending some time on this problem, I think I've located what it generally is, and I think it's actually this redirection issue. If we go back to the home page, and it took me a while to troubleshoot this, so I decided not to leave that part in to waste a bunch of people's time, but hopefully me pointing you in this direction can give you some clues, and then in the next video, once I have this fully fixed, I'll show how to fix that issue. But for now, what I want to show is that if you were to generate a report here on the home page itself, this will actually show, I don't know why it is downloading this file. That is a new thing. There's all sorts of weird things in my episode today. It always has to do this when I try to make a video. So you will notice that the progressive web app is now flagged on, and we're really only missing this one mark that manifest doesn't have a maskable icon, which we already figured out what that was. So that's pretty cool. So this is all working on the home page. And you can see we get this nice badge, and it tells us all the things that we want, in particular that we are doing these redirects and that we respond properly with 200s. Okay, so with that being said, if we were to go back to first markdown here and we load this again, what is happening here is that when we hit this, we try to type slash here, that redirection issue that I was mentioning, I believe that that is due to the server, us not having our config file, which I use a toml file, set up just right yet. So if I were to go to blog.jbdc.com just to show you, and I'll go to another page, a sub page, and from here, I'll do an audit just so you can see this. See, it's still doing it. There must be something new that's happened with this plugin or something like that. I've never had that download happen before. But either way, you can see that we are getting a progressive web app on a different page. And notice that when I go to the slash page, it isn't clearing that. And if I type to get away with that, it puts it back. to the slash. So I think really what's happening here is that we aren't properly routing back to the home page for the spa behavior whenever we go to it. So it's not able to redirect properly. So once I have that solved, I'll put that in the next video, and that will be an interesting thing just to know in case you run into this problem in general. But for now, let's go back to clearing up the purpose of this video. Since we do have our progressive web app set up, we can still see that we can go to the home page, and that ends up working, and we're getting all of that functionality. But let's show it on the phone itself and see how it behaves differently. So you can see now when we pull the site up after we've got our manifest and our offline and all that stuff working, we've got a progressive web app going. You can see that at the bottom there is this little add cheese X to the home screen. So that's our short name, right? And when you click that, what'll happen is that it will ask you if you want to add it to your home screen, and you can control whether you want this pop-up to show at all. It'll add it, and then you'll have a little app icon on your home screen that you can press that will deploy that app. Now, it's still just the website, but it's actually using some of the cool functionality that we've added, like service workers, to work offline, which is what I want to show here, to where, you know, if I turn my airplane mode on, I don't have internet anymore, and I refresh, then I now still can see the content that I've had access to before, and that's pretty cool. All right, well, that was a little bit of a rocky one, but, you know, hopefully it was a little bit informative. And, you know, I could obviously just recut the video and record it all over again. But like I've said before, and I'll say again, I just think it's more beneficial personally to see, you know, experienced developers that do this a bunch, run into weird hiccups. You know, we don't know it all. Strange things happen. And, you know, it's easy to feel like a little bit, you know, embarrassed that things aren't going the way that you expected them to, but that's the career, that's the business. Those are the real things that are happening under the scenes. And so you shouldn't worry about that. It's just how things go. But hopefully I didn't, you know, waste too much of your time and you found it informative. But that's how you set up a progressive web app and your Gatsby plugin manifest and your offline plugin. And from there, you've got a very impressive website compared to the vast majority of the web. So it's really cool how simple it makes that. You know, we had a few hiccups along the way, and I'm going to troubleshoot those. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how to deal with that situation from whatever I find out. Since I've had so many problems with this site working with the manifest, I thought it'd be a cool time to showcase my wife's blog, which is also a Gatsby site that is using the offline functionality in a progressive web app. It's really cool. She does a ton of really awesome terrain and mini painting blog posts and goes really in depth into the creation and the trials and tribulations that she has on those. So that's 1d3trees.com. We'll post it in the description if you want to check that out. So what I'm trying to showcase here too is that with this progressive web app functionality, if you've already visited, let's say, one of her pages previously, and then you don't have internet connection or it's spotty, when you reconnect to it, you'll still have all that content and the images and everything. And with a lot of the preloading that's going on, if you go to pages that you haven't been before, I'm showing that it won't be able to download the images, but a lot of the text and everything will still be there. So you can use a lot of this site offline just because you've gone to it one time. And that's really cool. It's a really awesome functionality to get for very minimal effort with the Gatsby plugin ecosystem. And that's really one of the things that makes Gatsby shine so strongly in this general like website landscape. There's just so many awesome features that a lot of the competition just hasn't quite nailed down yet as seamlessly. Now, of course, there are other services that are competing. Next.js is a great one, fantastic, lots of awesome functionality, and they've been closing the gap with Gatsby in general. But as of right now, it's still just so much easier for blog type websites, in my opinion, to get a really awesome, just state-of-the-art, first-class website in today's, you know, general landscape. But, you know, maybe soon that won't be the case. You never know with web dev. You just kind of have to pivot and, you know, stay ready for anything. But right now, I think it's just an awesome tool set.